Good morning. Thank you all for coming. I know it's a comfortable summer morning and everyone's having a good time actually being able to greet one another. It's always nice to see at these events. My name is Peter Foreman and I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce. If you have not been to one of these events before, there is a question and answer period at the end. But we don't completely trust you, so we ask you to write those questions down. It is a way to actually get more questions in. There are index cards at your table, and if you have questions, even during our speaker's presentation, if you have questions, feel free to write them down and hold them up, and we'll have some volunteers or staff pick them up and give them to our Grand Inquisitor, who will try to get through as many questions as possible. These events are made possible because of our partners. We have about 65 partners, very generous business leaders in the chamber who give quite a bit of their support to the chamber to make events like this possible. Our two lead sponsors this morning for this event is our newest chairman's partner, Cressa, a commercial real estate firm representing tenants. The lead associate for Cressa in Boston is tied up, got bumped from his flight last night, so could not make it and deliver his remarks, but I'm pleased to recognize Elizabeth Gary from the Boston office, who is here as well from Cressa. So thank you for sponsoring it, and thanks to our director's partner, co-sponsor, Bob Conrad and the Conrad Group for making these possible. And thank you to all of our partners. And let's give them a round of applause because they do make these possible. And a lot of events taking place, or a lot of activity taking place. This has been a very good year for the South Shore. Several of our largest projects are moving forward. Particularly downtown Quincy. We even have progress at Weymouth Landing with an interesting proposal there for transit development. And the biggest development of all on the South Shore, which is going to change the entire region, of course, is Southfield. And we're so pleased that there is some new ownership with local ties taking over. L-Star Land is now the new owner, and I'm pleased to recognize Kyle Corkum, who was able to make it today. Kyle, 30-second update. Is anything happening in Southfield?
No.
Okay. Go ahead. What's going on?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Just a quick second. My firm bought Southfield just 8 weeks ago, and I'm proud to say that we've made tremendous progress, and mostly that's because the three communities that Southfield resides in, Weymouth, Rockland, and Abington, have been really, really generous with us. We're rezoning the entire property. We're going to be able to create much more on the site than has ever been envisioned in the past, and they're really our partners in making that happen. So our plan now is to produce about 4,000 housing units in smart growth, methodologies, but also we're going to have more than 3 million square feet of commercial. So we've got locations that are ideal for all sorts of commercial uses, offices, medical, life sciences, things like that, and we're really aggressively going after that. So any of you that are involved in any commercial endeavors that are looking for a prominent site on the South Shore, we'd ask you to consider Southfield. We are real and moving forward aggressively, and we welcome your partnership. So thanks, Peter.
Thank you. One of the advantages of a summer event where it's a little more comfortable, casual, and conversational, we like to sometimes find out who's in the audience, and we often have a question, the longest running business on the South Shore, or the most generations of a business, and I see Laura Carbone from Alvin Hollis. You are now the fourth or fifth generation, and there's a sixth being trained. Kerry Calloway, A.W. Perry. Kerry, you are what generation? You're fifth. Oh, okay. All right. is a sixth being trained yet? Okay. So we have at least 2 companies with 5 generations in the same family. Does anybody beat that? Anyone else in the room I'm not recognizing? Oldest company, and I'm trying to look around the room. If it is not the 5th generation businesses, it's the Patriot Ledger, maybe? 189, and the only possible competitor in the room might be YMCA? How old's the YMCA? Where is the Y? I saw... What? 90? 1890 and... Oh, you're a kid. You're young and healthy. That's why Eric Snyder from the Y is leaving tomorrow for New York to run an Ironman. So you get another 90 years just out of Eric. Well, thanks to having so many businesses that have been here for so long, and so many businesses with multi-generational leadership. And we're glad to see some of the local chambers in the area as well who are with us. Dean Rizzo from Quincy Chamber of Commerce, Linda Werman from Randolph Chamber, Jonathan Grabowski from the Marshfield Chamber. It really is, our work is really about building up communities and aligning local needs and interests with larger regional needs and then state needs, trying to make this a stronger area. But it all does come down to our volunteers and our leadership. And I want to recognize the chairman of the board for the chamber this year, our top volunteer leader. Please welcome the chair, Jackie Collins from Partnering for Performance.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. It's a great group. A lot of people, I was just mentioning to someone at the table that there's events like this that people come to that I don't see all year long. And then these folks show up at things like this, and I'm so happy to see you all here. I want to thank Cressa and the Bob Conrad Group for being our sponsors this morning for our breakfast. So this year, all of you have heard a lot about the need to grow our economy and develop our communities here on the South Shore. And oftentimes when I'm at events, people come up to me and ask me, what exactly does that mean? What does economic development mean? So to encapsulate that in a nutshell, it really means developing an environment and maintaining an environment where we can support companies with entrepreneurial leaders who are on the verge and will grow and create good jobs, thereby turning their success into ways to help other companies and other small businesses, and then helping make our communities a better place to live. So that's kind of what, when we talk about economic development, that's what we're thinking of and that's what we're talking about. So everybody in this room, all the business owners, small, large, medium, we're here to tell you that economically, developmentally, and community-wise, we're working on initiatives to help you. And hopefully you'll all pitch in and you'll help us do that. So one of the things that I want to bring up about our speaker here, Rob Hale, one of the things in the back of our minds is, you know, how do we create an environment also to grow and cultivate more Rob Hale type of leaders on the South Shore. Our guest speaker is the epitome of business success and community leadership. In 2002, Rob founded Granite Telecommunications here on the South Shore. He has grown Granite into one of the largest telecommunications companies in the country, and he's one of the largest employers on the South Shore. While never taking his attention away from his core business, he is a co-founder of Copley Equity Partners. He's owner of Fox Rock Properties, which is a commercial real estate firm responsible for much of the growth in office space on the South Shore in the past few years. He is also part owner of the Boston Celtics and Boston Cannons. He is also a committed philanthropist who sits on several local nonprofit boards and helps countless other nonprofits and causes. Please help me in welcoming Rob Hale.
Can you guys hear me now? Do you want me to start back? I don't think the guys from The Wire are as healthy as I heard, so do you need me to do it again? You sure? Okay, so anyway, in any event, my career is not quite illustrious. In fact, I think my career is checkered. And so I would love to give you a brief biographical sketch so you can understand the lessons that we'll talk about in the next 20 minutes, how they pertain to the path that I have followed. So if you'll bear with me briefly, just a historical sketch. I grew up in Northampton. In fact, I met one of my hometown friends this morning. I was raised in an entrepreneurial environment. My father was an importer and manufacturer of women's apparel. So in my household, entrepreneurial thoughts were fostered, nurtured, and saluted. I went to Connecticut College. When I graduated from Connecticut College, I went to work for MCI, the long distance company, in sales. I loved it. Within a matter of months, I'm not trying to sound boastful, but within a matter of months, I was the #1 sales guy in the country. I took to sales like a fish takes to water. I was very comfortable in that environment. As I was starting to grow my little business at MCI, some of my customers said to me, "What is this aggregation?" And I said, "I don't know what it is, but I'll look into it." And as I looked into it, what it really was bulk buying of AT&T services. And as I looked into it, I said to my dad, and remember, my dad was an entrepreneur in the truest sense, we can do this. And so he put up several $100,000, and I did the work, and we started a company called Network Plus in 1990. So at the ripe age of 22, I was CEO of a 6-person company. And I say CEO in jest, because at a 6-person company, you're not really the CEO. You're everything that needs to get done. 1990, we lost money. From 91 to 98, we made money. We grew to be about a $150 million business. We had not taken on debt. We had not taken on investors. We had an annual net, somewhere between 9 and 14%. And we had a great business. I just didn't know how great it was. Goldman Sachs cold called me in 98 and said, "Hey, would you like to do a bond offering?" And I said, "Listen, I'm a phone guy. I'm not a finance guy. I don't even really know what that is." And they said, "Well, if you do a bond offering, on the heels of it, you can do an IPO, and you'll be a billionaire." And I said, yes, I will do that. Yes, please, that'd be great. I'll do that, please." So what they said would happen, did happen. Stock opened at 16, traded up to 61, 62, something like that. I happen to own 27 million shares. So at one juncture, there was 1.4 billion next to my name. Forbes said I was the 7th wealthiest guy in the world under 40. So the stock went like this, and then the stock went like this. Certainly we all hear talk of a bubble right now. Whether it is or it isn't, I don't know, but there was a great big bubble that burst, it seems like primarily on me, in 2000, 2001, 2002. So there were 43 public CLECs in 1999. 43 public, 41 of them restructured. And that restructuring happened to me. So we didn't miss any of our covenants. We didn't do anything we didn't say we were going to do, but Goldman and Fleet and CSFB, which were our banks, simply said, "We don't bank CLECs anymore. Your line's expiring and we're not going to renew it. Bad luck." So on February 4th of 2002, we declared bankruptcy. So the first bit of advice I would give you, and this is probably the most salient advice I'll give you today, would be you should choose your networking events a little more prudently, because you're going to get business advice from a guy who bankrupted a company and lost $1 billion in the process. And if anyone makes for the door right now, I'd understand why you'd do that. So February 4th of 2002, we declared bankruptcy. March 15th of 2002, we were sold at auction. June 3rd of 2002, we started Granite, and we couldn't get there fast enough. Granite has been quite successful. I've been very, very fortunate, very, very blessed to be part of Granite. In the last 13 years, we have become a $1.1 billion business. We have never had any debt. We do not have any outside investors. We have created 1,400 American jobs, 1,200 or so are which are in Quincy. We've used the cash flows from Granite to fund other exciting endeavors like Fox Rock, which, as you heard, is commercial development here on the South Shore. We own 16 or 17 buildings, about 1.5 million square feet. Like Copley, which is a private equity firm where we buy and sell smaller companies. And yes, I'm lucky enough to own a part of the Celtics and unlucky enough to own the majority of the Cannons. So as you can see, my career is checkered. And the lessons that I've learned in many cases, the most salient lessons have come from the checkered part of those paths that I have followed. So I would give you a couple of highlights and supplement them with tidbits to strengthen the point. First suggestion that I would make to any business person, small, big, or large, and I think the topics that we're going to talk about today do not resonate at a $1 billion company, do not resonate at a $10,000 company. I think they resonate at all companies. The first suggestion that I would give would be to take risks. And again, take that tongue-in-cheek from a guy who has lost an entire company and a lot of money along the way. But I would advocate taking risk every time. Fortune favors the bold, as Victor Hugo said, and I believe that's been the key to our successes. So a couple of quick tidbits about that. First one comes from the very, very, very beginning of my career. As I mentioned, I went to Connecticut College. As I mentioned, my father ran a sales and marketing company. From the day I was 18, 19, it was understood by he and I, and he was the one that I looked up to the most, that I would go work in a sales and marketing training program. So when I left, that was the path that I was intending to follow. He understood that, and I understood that. And so as I was graduating, I had a bunch of interviews. I was lucky enough to get job offers from Planters, Nabisco, Brown-Forman, Gillette, a couple other great companies with great training programs. I had decided to decline them all, waiting for the granddaddy of all sales and marketing training programs, which probably today still is the best sales and training marketing program in the country, I think, Procter & Gamble. So when I was given an offer by Procter & Gamble, one of the things that they expect you to do, and it proved very prudent, was ride shotgun with an existing sales rep for the day and see what it is that you do. Make sure you like it, and presumably they like you. So I remember going down to Saddle River, New Jersey, and I was literally 3 weeks having graduated from Connecticut College with a 24-year-old from Cornell. And at 8 o'clock, we showed up at a supermarket, and of course I had my tie on and chip shape, ready to do deals. And we walked in, and we stacked boxes of Bounce. And we went to another supermarket at 9:30. And we stacked boxes of Bounce. And we did it again, and I hope no one works for Procter & Gamble in here. At 11 o'clock, and we stacked boxes of Bounce. So over lunch, I said to him, hey, are we, like, I don't want to push my luck here. Let's not even ask if we're going to have any sales calls, but are we going to talk to anybody? And he said, sometimes we ask assistant managers and compete over the end caps. You know, those, the supermarket, when you turn, those are called end caps. He said, sometimes we compete over those. And I said, that's it? Yeah. And then the afternoon, we did the same thing. And I kid you not, the most fun we had, which was pretty fun, was taking the tape guns and going like this, as fast as you can to see if you could get the whole row without missing one of the price tags. And we did it 4 more times. So as I was driving home, and now remember, my father is my mentor and is the foremost influence of my life. He wanted me to get that job. So I was driving home up 95, and I pulled over off, you drive, obviously from Jersey, you drive through Connecticut to get back to Massachusetts, and I pulled over on 95 and used a payphone. And luckily enough, I see a lot of people are my age group, so you understand what payphones are. I used a payphone to call my dad and say, I can't do it. It is nothing to do with sales. And I know we have built towards getting this foremost job in sales and marketing training, and it's the pinnacle. It's what you graduate and go do. I can't do this. Yeah, I won't like it. It's not fun. And he said, fine. You just have to get another job. Okay, great. So I moved to Boston and looked in the Help Wanteds, which again dates most of us. Looked in the Help Wanteds, got a couple of offers, and chose a job at MCI in sales. So instead of taking the foremost sales and marketing training program, I went to work in telemarketing. But it seemed to work out just fine. Second risk that I would advocate, or I would say was worth taking, was again the conclusion of Network Plus. As I mentioned, on February 4th of 2002, we lost a lot of money. But February 4th of 2002, I had death threats. I had lawsuits. I am a salesperson at my core. And so when you go into bankruptcy, you have to finance the transition to whatever's next, and it's called debtor in possession financing. Goldman said to us, to get your debtor in possession financing, you have to let go of the whole sales force. So those are my brethren, and I had to let go 400 of them on a conference call. And the local media was calling me the busted boy billionaire. And it was, driving down my street and seeing newspapers in people's driveway, knowing they were taking shots at me, it hurt. But at the end of the day, we had taken a risk, and it hadn't worked. It had been supremely successful at a certain juncture, but then unfortunately thereafter, at that juncture, it didn't work. And the risk that I wanted to take, and I wanted to take it as fast as I could, was to rebuild. So all of the negativity and all of the losses didn't faze me in the least. There was no doubt in my mind that as quick as we could, we would start another business. And we did. And the final ingredient, the final example I would give you of taking risk, again resonates with Granite. 2000, and some of my teammates don't know this, but 2006, 2007, Quest, which is the long distance, it was the U.S. West, the phone company, in the western part of the United States, had seen our successes and they called on us. And over a series of discussions, they wanted to acquire us. And so this was 06, 07, so we were 5 years from failure. And they had offered a number, and I'll just be very direct about it, about $225 million. And we had no debt, we had no investors, and so there were two things that resonated with me at that time. First, most important perhaps, we took a risk before, and I timed it poorly and we failed. And then we had nothing to show for it. Because in that original stock, I never sold a penny worth of shares. So maybe if I time this one better, I'll have something to show for it. And that thought ran strongly through my mind. Secondly, and what really mattered to me a great deal, at that time I knew the public knew that I had failed. And some people might have known that we were succeeding, but there was no stamp of success on me. And I promise you, I really wanted to put that stamp of success back on. Like, no, I'm not a screw-up. I'm not the guy who screwed up that company. I'm the guy who sold this company. And that thought ran strongly through my mind. And then last, 225, I'm a history major, but 225 divided by 2 still seems like a big number to me. So maybe I could make a lot of money and my family would be set for life. But ultimately, the decision that ran through my mind was, our business is strong and getting stronger. And I'm willing to re-roll the dice that we can get bigger, stronger, more valuable, and have more fun. And we decided to do that. So instead of taking our chips off the table, we doubled down. And I won't get into numbers with you, but let's assume that number that they offered, we have created that value many, many, many times over since then. So taking that risk was a prudent one. Second bit of advice I would give to you would be listen to your customers. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, except this Tuesday, I go visit customers. I'm going to go Thursday and Friday. And I get about 6 meetings each day. I go wherever our customers are. So I get 12 meetings a week, call it 50 a month. And then on Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, I have conference calls, and I probably get an average of 30, 40 conference calls. So I believe I talk to our customers 200 times a month or more. Customers have been integral to our successes, and in my opinion, can be integral to all of your successes. So a couple quick examples of it. And one stems actually from the genesis of our entire business. When we started Granite, we were going to build, through wholesale, a base of customers, and then deploy switches to increase our margins, increase our value. We were lucky enough to get a bit of business from Walmart and Walgreens, and then they said to us, through wholesale, consolidate and discount our telephone lines as a beta test in our Boston stores. Shortly thereafter, they said, do it for all of New England. And shortly thereafter, they said, do it for the entire Northeast. And almost to the same day, they brought us out to Chicago and Bentonville and said, this consolidating and discounting of our existing phone lines through wholesale, this is good for us. And we will do it for the rest of the country. We might do it with you, we might not. But we are going to pursue wholesale nationwide. So by the time the wheels touch home, you got to make a decision. Are we going to do what I thought we were going to do, which is build a physical phone company? Or are we going to do what they want, which is essentially become a national wholesaler? And so in the last 13 years, we've created 1,200 American jobs, or Quincy jobs, 1,400 American jobs. We've created a $1.1 billion company. We've been recognized by countless organizations as Entrepreneur of the Year. Harvard Business School wrote a case study on us. People say, hey, how'd you get that great idea? We didn't. We just listened. Our customers told us. Second story, same company. Walmart has been a big customer of ours, a vital, important, strategic customer of ours for about 13 years. 07, 08, they called us and said, hey, we have good news. We've given Humana the ability to sell benefits in our stores. So if you walk into any Walmart, there's a little kiosk where they sell, you could pick up the phone, it auto dials, and it goes back to Humana, and they get a chance to sell you benefits. I assume you guys have seen those? No? Cam, I know you buy your suits at Walmart. Yes. 2-for-1 deal? No, that's Joseph Bank. In any event, they are in there. And so Walmart says to us, we've chosen Humana to sell benefits. And we have to put a kiosk in. And the good news is we want you to cable them. And we said, that's excellent, except we don't do cabling. And they said, I don't think you heard me. Yes, sir. So literally for 4 months, we just went to the Yellow Pages and built a database of technicians in these towns that could pull cables and install kiosks. And we decided as we were going through it, if this is good for Walmart, it's probably good for everybody else. And in so doing, now we have about a $55 million cabling business that nets about 13%. And Walmart told us to do it. Final ingredient I will give you is a partnership we've cultivated with Simon Malls. Simon Malls is the largest, most valuable real estate trust in America. They own the South Shore Plaza, they own Atrium, they own Burlington Mall, they own 300 of the fanciest malls in America. Now you're smiling, Cam, that's your stuff. As I mentioned, I go out to all of our customers. I got to be very friendly with the CIO. 2 years ago, he said, let's do something innovative. Let's build a voice and data company in a mall. So rather than relying on Verizon and AT&T to bring the voice and data in the mall, why don't you put your infrastructure in there and create a voice and data company? And why would someone like Simon want to do this? Because we share revenue with them. So that now instead of Verizon and AT&T pulling, call it $200,000 a month out of the South Shore Plaza, let's say we charge the customers $150, they make $75, we make $75. It's a great deal for Simon, it's a great deal for us. So we beta tested, in fact, the South Shore Plaza was our first. We beta tested 13 more malls. We are now, and it costs them, and we do the work, $250,000 to build this out. And then we share revenue on the back end. We're doing all of their malls, which is 300. We're doing all of the malls for GGP, which is number 2. We're doing all of the malls for Macerich, which is the 3rd largest mall operator in America. We're doing all of the malls for Taubman, which is 5th largest in America. Basically, all of the enclosed malls in America, we're headed toward being the sole voice and data company in those malls. It's a gem of an opportunity, and we got it from being very close to our customers. So I would encourage everybody, big, small business, doesn't matter. Get close to your customers. They'll tell you what matters. Final thoughts. Choose your partners wisely, whether they are vendors, whether it's an equity investment, or whether they're teammates. So on the vendor front, the last year or two of Network Plus's existence, our auditor from the beginning was PricewaterhouseCoopers. At the end of Network Plus's last couple of years, as I mentioned, the whole industry was in turmoil. And everybody was trying to make their numbers, because if you don't make numbers and you run a public company, I call it the 90-day guillotine. If you don't make your numbers, there's going to be penalties, and the penalties at that juncture were very severe. So we're all scrambling to try to make our numbers. Quest, that local company that I mentioned earlier, called us and said, hey, let's do something called a fiber swap. And I said, I don't really know what that is, and I won't get into great detail, but it's essentially taking CapEx, swapping CapEx, and both of you get to bring it into earnings as revenue. And so it's an easy way to make your numbers look a lot better. I said, that sounds great to me. So I brought it to our CFO, a fellow I'm indebted to named Bob Cabuzzi, and said, hey, what do you think? He said, I don't think it sounds too good, but let's ask PricewaterhouseCoopers. PricewaterhouseCoopers, and our partner is a guy who lives in Hingham named Doug Kango, said, we shouldn't do this. I said, why? Because it's not kosher. We shouldn't do it. Okay. So I went back to Quest and said, hey, I don't think we can do this. And they said, why? I said, our auditors and our CFO say it's not good. And he said, Rob, you're a $200 million business. We're a $25 billion LEC. And we have Arthur Andersen as our auditors. And they say it's fine. Who are you to correct us? And I said, that's a good point. And I went back to our CFO and our auditors at PwC and said, hey, these guys, Arthur Andersen and Quest, big companies say it's fine. They say, you still shouldn't do it. It's not right. And so what happened in the end, we didn't do it. I followed their advice. We failed. And we didn't make our numbers, and ultimately, for a variety of different reasons, we had great pain that we had to go through, but we kept our integrity. CEO of Quest is in jail. A variety of the leaders of his company are banned from the industry. Arthur Andersen doesn't exist anymore, in part because of those practices. So lessons that I learned, two from that discussion. If you fail with integrity, it hurts, but you can play the game again. If you fail and lose your integrity, you're probably out of the game. So keep your integrity. And second, choose your partners wisely, because I didn't have the common sense to know not to do that. And those guys told me not to. So I got to play the game again. Second, at an investment level, as mentioned, Fox Rock and Copley sit here today. I am lucky enough to invest in these endeavors. I would give the advice to people thinking about ancillary investments, choose really talented partners that you don't have to be involved with on a day-to-day basis. It would be penny wise and pound foolish if I got actively involved in Fox Rock, Copley, or the Boston Celtics. Well, actually, they won't let me get involved at the Boston Celtics. But I have been fortunate to choose partners who understand how to run their businesses. I get involved in the enthusiasm, the growth, and the excitement of the company, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day activities, and in my opinion, nor should I be. So choose partners who can lead with integrity, and you're comfortable with them, so you can focus on your own activities. And finally, in my primary job at Granite, Granite has become, without debt, without investors, a $1.1 billion business. So our compounded growth rate is 37,000%. I would challenge anybody to come up with numbers like that. Not in the South Shore, in America. And so I believe that I'm relatively good at my job, but I am blessed to have 1,400 awesome teammates. Choose your teammates wisely. Explain to them the culture and expectations that we expect, and they'll deliver on it. And my first choice was probably my most important. Our COO is the exact opposite of me. I like people, I like customers, I like growing with customers. I want to be around people all day, every day. I have never met a more meticulous, detail-oriented person than our COO. Again, we're polar opposites, which makes us strong. So I would advocate in a smaller business, when you're choosing your first few partners, choose complementary skill sets and choose wisely. But for all partners, I would say start with integrity. So finally, choose your partners wisely. They're the key to your growth. Listen to your customers. They'll tell you how to grow. And last and most important, take risks. That'll lead to your opportunities. Thank you.
That was probably the best half hour of practical business advice I think I've ever heard a speaker deliver to a chamber audience. That was fabulous. And I'd be remiss, by the way, if I did not thank Foxrock for being one of the chamber's partners as well. We appreciate that. The title Grand Inquisitor often scares people. And by the way, you do have the card, so feel free to ask questions. Many speakers get scared by the title of Grand Inquisitor, thinking that we have somebody who's going to extract bloody confessions out of them. You've clearly figured that our Grand Inquisitor is really the nothing more than the fashionable, well-styled owner of Roomscape's Luxury Design and our vice chair. Please welcome Cam Snyder.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi, Cam.
That was excellent, very inspirational. Now it's my turn to pick on you for a little while.
Nice suit, though,
Thank
Cam.
you very much.
Nice, I see that.
I wore this just for you.
Yes.
So we have a bunch of questions from the audience, and I have some written down, but as you were speaking, you said you were primarily a salesperson and an entrepreneur,
Yes.
which I can relate to
Yes.
quite a bit, as I'm sure most of the people in the room can. At what point in the development of a company do you realize that it's beyond you and that you say, I sell, I create, I don't manage? At what point does that come? Do you know it, and do you see it coming?
Obviously, I misjudged the first time. It doesn't. It hasn't come to me. So I think there's probably two different kinds of leadership. Again, I have a teammate who's meticulous about management through details and keeping everyone focused on the task at hand. My leadership is probably more open, more active, more goal-oriented. So certainly in my opinion, and I'm lucky enough with Pete and Copley to buy small companies. In my opinion, running a small business, the people who run small businesses who don't think they're in sales, I question what they actually think they're doing. It seems to me that a small business should be religiously focused on sales, and the leader should be vigilant themselves. If they expect to grow the business, it should be clear to everybody in the room that they expect to grow the business as well. So I would say in the beginning it has to be the core focus, because if you don't have revenue coming in, you can't grow the business. If you have revenue coming in, you can cure all that ails you. At some juncture, as you get a little bit bigger, you do have to start worrying more about management. And if you were at your core a salesperson like me, I think you'd want to try to find somebody who could manage those details for you. So as a salesperson, if you can create the cash flow to hire a few people, try to hire somebody who can do some of the things that you don't want to do. And for me, that's a lot of the details.
So you started off, you mentioned as you began your talk, that you started off as a six-person company, the COO of a six-person company, and now you're the CEO, and now you're the CEO of a much, much larger company.
Yep.
How does it differ?
Yep.
And what have you learned from both being a CEO of a smaller company? How have those lessons helped you in a larger company?
It's more fun when it's small. Being honest about it, when there's 6 or 7 or 8 or 15 people, you know, the fox runs for his meal, the rabbit runs for his life. When you're running for your life, it's actually, in my opinion, more exciting. You know, you got to survive, and the adrenaline courses through your veins. So I like it better when you know everybody. I try to know everybody, but at 1,400 people, there are times when I walk down the halls and I look at them and say, "Hey, I'm Rob. You know, what team are you on?" They say, "I'm customer service." I'm like, "How long have you been here?" 3 years. I'm like, "Oh." You know, like, and you feel like an idiot because you don't recognize them, but I hate to say it, at 1,400 people, it's not as personal as it was. I like it better when it's more personal, and it is more rewarding. Survival is more rewarding than any of the other monetary goals that we have accomplished. That being said, last August, we got to $1 billion in annualized revenue. That was a watershed event in our history, and we celebrated by giving $1 million to our teammates, by raffling off $1 million to our teammates, by giving $1 million to charity. So it was an awesome week. And those goals, as you get bigger, in my opinion, they're further and further apart, and it becomes more process-oriented than the pure excitement of the exhilaration of building a little business. So I would say that, from my personal perspective, having seen it twice, the most fun is in the beginning. Some of the longer-term rewards happen more towards the end.
To kind of maybe back away from business questions for a second, can you address the value of giving back? You're obviously known as a philanthropist, if I could pronounce that correctly.
Yep.
Can you give us the advantages to that and why you feel we all, in whatever way we can, should give back to our communities?
Yep. So we subscribe to Maya Angelou's philosophy, to whom much is given, much is expected. And we do feel at Granite that we're very blessed. You know, we've talked about some of the successes. And we are successful in this community because of this community. So we've put a lot of money back into the community. But one of the things that I like the most, and I've talked about this with other organizations, it seems to me like it's an easy way for any organization to give back proportionately. One of the things we do is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are coat and tie at Granite. Thursday is casual day, and Friday is optional casual day. We have a Granite Cares committee of 7 or 8 of us. They choose from submissions from our teammates an organization that we're going to support. And then that Friday, if you would like to wear casual clothes, you are requested to give a $3 donation. And the Granite Cares organization chooses who we're going to support. And so we support 52 different organizations in our communities, whether it's Father Bill's or the YMCA or a whole host of, South Shore Arc or whatever it may be, a whole host of different organizations that are two things: valuable to our community, but valuable to one of our teammates because they've made this suggestion. So every Friday we give $4,000 or $5,000 because our teammates give $3 each, and then Granite matches. And so I think at a relative level, everybody could do something like that. And it seems to me like that's and it makes people happy, right? Being on Friday casual day makes people happy, and giving $3 doesn't seem like that big a bite for anybody. And then when you see that we've given $4,700 to some organization, you feel like you contributed to the greater good. So we do little things like that, and I don't want to call that little. We do things like that, and then we'll do bigger things like the Saving by Shaving that we did with the governor, where we gave $3.5 million to Dana-Farber for cancer research. It's just in the fiber of our company to be active in the community because we're very aware of the reason that we've been successful is because of the community.
You mentioned here that you enjoy the South Shore, you love the South Shore, it's your community, and you want to give back to it. As you know, the Chamber is involved in a economic development plan for the region that's going to be rolled out very soon, which has its rewards and its issues. One of the issues is some people don't want change. They don't want the region to be developed economically. They like it the way it is. Can you give us some of your thoughts on that? How do you sell that, and how do you roll that out? And do you think it's a good thing to help develop the economy of the South Shore?
I would say to the naysayers, and I'm sure they're not in this room, but the only thing you can count on is change. Change is going to happen, and if we don't implement positive change, then negative change will happen to us, and we'll be left behind. So we have to advocate for change. We have to expect that there will be change. And with Fox Rock, and again, we've got 18 or 19 buildings around here, we of course have a vested interest in the development of the community. But with Granite, we have 1,200 teammates who come from these communities. So we want this to be a vibrant, lively, energetic community that people come to, not leave. And so to create that magnetism, we need more energy, we need more jobs, we need more enthusiasm. And I think the Chamber has helped leading that initiative, and I think it's vital to our area.
You're involved in sports teams. One maybe you were dragged and screaming. We've had two speakers come and talk to the Chamber, one pro the Olympics, one not pro the Olympics. Can you give us your opinion on whether you think the Olympics would be good for us and what our chances are of becoming an Olympic city?
We were an early big supporter of the Olympics. We gave a lot of money last year to support them. It does seem like, unfortunately, the message has drifted from very positive to it's tainted with the negative message now. So I think we're a little more reserved about the Olympics because it seems, this is just my personal opinion, no one else at Granite nor any of the other organizations, and Steve Paliuk is a partner of mine at the Celtics, so this is just my opinion, nothing more. It seems that if we could get the Olympics without spending public dollars, I think it would be a stunning windfall for our city, our community, and have a long-lasting positive effect. If we can't get the Olympics without spending tax dollars, then I think the people whose dollars would be put to risk should have a say in whether we do that or not.
I guess the ultimate question is, can we rely on whomever says that we don't have to use citizens' monies to do this and believe that that's humanly possible? I'm not necessarily looking for a response, but I think that's in the back of everybody's mind.
I get that, and again, I have firsthand knowledge of, say, the Celtics media contract. I was lucky enough to get involved in the Celtics in 2010, which means that I don't have a ring, unfortunately. That's what it means. But they publish the numbers on the value of these things, right? So I'm not telling you anything you couldn't figure out. 2010, we did a transaction that valued the Celtics at about $350 million. In 5 years, what does Forbes say the Celtics are worth now? But you can, and again, I'm not telling you something you can't look up when you go home. Just Google it. They say it's worth $1.8 billion. What did the Dodgers get sold for 2 years ago? 2.3, and then 8 months later, what did they do a media deal for? And people thought they were idiots. And then, so Dodgers went for 2.3, and people said, you guys are stumbling idiots for doing that. 8 months later, they did a media rights deal for how much? $6 billion. So and I only know, and again, at the Celtics, I got cut from JV basketball at Deerfield Academy. So I don't know anything about how to run a basketball team. I get free snacks at halftime. That's what I get. But I do know the value in what the media rights have done. Media rights are the most precious commodity in sports because I'm not a technologist, as crazy as it sounds. I don't know how to do those TVs that skip, but my kids do, so I tell them to do it for me. Does anyone watch TV now when it's scheduled? And do you actually watch the commercials? No, you go to what you want to watch and you skip through, right? What's the one thing you sit down live and watch? So the media rights to sports is really, really, really valuable. So the numbers that I have seen, and I'm not trying to sell for the Olympics, far from it, seem a little light to me. I bet they'll garner significant revenue from the media rights.
One more question, Peter. You said that your father was your mentor. Other than your father, what other leaders, business leaders, do you look up to? And where do you turn for advice when you need it?
I do have a few other mentors. I'll say this name simply, and it's going to get, in Massachusetts, he's vilified and booed. Don't boo me. But David Koch and I serve on a couple different boards, and I am not in line with his political views, but he's built the largest private company in America. As you probably know, it's a $100 billion business. And there are not, I intend to do this for the rest of my life. This is what I do. Most people today, and I hope they're not in this room, but a lot of people today start businesses with the intention of selling them. So they take on a little equity, and I always laugh, honestly, when you see people are like, oh, what round of financing are you on? And they talk about the capital that they've raised, and they're very proud about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but what you're doing is giving away the equity, right? So if you have real confidence, why would you do that? So I don't intend to take a round of financing, and I assure you I never intend to go public again. But people who generationally build businesses, there are fewer and fewer of them, because it seems to me that less and less of us take a long-term view of the world. And I was delighted to hear that there are five generations of leadership in the room. That's the stuff that I like to listen to, because I do intend to do this for a long time, and I hope that we're a generational business. So I seek advice from folks who seem to me as though they have a long-term perspective. And a few of them that I seek out are actually one of the reasons that I'm not as keen on the Olympics is one of my closest friends is John Fish, who got bounced from running the Olympics. I seek his advice. I seek Koch's advice. There are folks that I like to be around that seem to me they want to grow long-term businesses. And that's who I seek advice from. And I'm happy to share, too. The little bits of tidbits that I have, if they're of interest to somebody, I'd be happy to share with them.
Well, on behalf of the Chamber, myself personally, I'm sure everybody in this room, thank you. You were one of our best speakers, I think, in a very, very long time. And we appreciate your enthusiasm and sharing your experiences with us, both good and bad. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And nice suit, by the way.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you not only for speaking, but there are 1,200 families on the South Shore who are making their livelihoods because of what you've done. There are so many charities, some of them like the Y and Father Bill's with John Yaswinski that's in the room. We're grateful for everything you and your company have done. We appreciate it. And thank you for all of you, the future leaders and the people who are going to emulate Rob in so many ways every day, even if not to the scale. We do appreciate what you all do for the South Shore Chamber. There are a couple of programming notes which I've lost. What are they? There is the Cultural Bus Tour, October 1st.
And the Innovation Showcase, Tech Connect 2.0 on October 22nd.
There you go. Add them to your calendar. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you.